Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Business Analysis Insights or BAInsights. Today, we'll be talking about business analysis and data, and I'm pleased to have some very good guests with me today to talk about this topic. So, I'm going to start with Rohit to introduce himself and tell you all about who
Uh,
he is.
Hi
Rohit?
all. So thank you for giving this opportunity, John. So my name is Rohit Thakur. I have total 8.5 years of experience in a field of data and in the field of business analyst, where my key role is to analyze the data, draw the data insight, and give the recommendations. So I have worked extensively on Tableau, and now I'm working on Power BI and SQL a bit to extract the query or extract the data and analyze it and give it into a proper presentation. So thank you for it.
Brilliant, thank you, Rohit. And I know when we talk about visualization later, I'm sure we'll talk about Tableau and Power BI
Mhm.
as a couple of examples. Thank you, Rohit. Ancita, over to you, please.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you, John, for this opportunity. I'm really excited and looking out for this session. Talking about myself, my name is Ancita Soni. I am based in Mumbai currently. I have about 6 years of experience working as a business analyst. Also, wearing a hat of a product owner at times when needed. I've handled team of about like 5 to 6 people. All these years of experience I have is from a beautiful country, which is UAE. So I have worked in UAE with more than 35 plus clients all over the globe. So I have worked with startups, I have worked with MNCs, government organizations, and everything. To make a long story short. Talking about my experience again, I have worked as a BA, like I said. So the tools that I worked on is Power BI. I've also worked on Jira, created a lot of Confluence pages for all the documentation that goes into, which is part of the BA, the first, step that we take when we get a project. I have worked on, I think I lost the count, but to be a little bit closer to the count, I've worked on about 26 projects in the past 3 years, which was like
Yeah.
really busy for me. Apart from that, I love to travel. So, meeting clients from different countries has always been like a golden opportunity for me. So, yeah, that's a bit about myself.
Excellent.
Um,
Well, thank you for sharing
yeah.
a bit about your career and a bit about yourself as well. And I look forward to hearing a bit more about you and Rohit through the session as we go through, that's for sure. And what we'll
Sure.
do is start the first question to get us rolling to Rohit, if I may, in terms of how important is data analysis skills to business analysts?
So John, data analysis is something that we do on a daily basis. Means be it in a household course or be it in any other journey, we do the analysis. So to support our decision, to convince our stakeholders, data analysis plays an important role because we cannot convince or we cannot give a better decision without a data. So data tells us that what has gone wrong in the past, what we can do good in the future, and based on our analysis, we can capitalize more on the future opportunities rather than holding back our bad experiences. So it's very much important in today's world. And recently, the trends shows that a business analyst having a data analysis skills is paid more. Means they are highly in demand. Means company doesn't want a functional BA anymore. They want to play a hat of data analysis as well. So learning some of the good tools like Tableau visualization or just having our hand dirty in the raw data will give you an extremely edge over the others.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. I'm sure we'll talk about different aspects of that through the conversation, but certainly as a business analyst, irrespective of whether it's data or process, the key thing is understanding that particular topic, understanding your data environment, understanding the information that flows through the process. What is the process? So certainly data analysis, as I'm sure we'll hear today, is a very fundamental way for us to understand the data, if nothing else. And I know there'll be a few more things. So great, thank you. Ancita?
Sure. I totally agree with what Rohit said with in terms of business analysis. Data analysis also plays a very important role. In order to analyze something, you need to have the correct data. And, without that, I think it will be all over the place. So here's how I like to frame it. It's like a skill, which is like a compass guiding business analysis through the maze of information. Both of them, they not only decode the language of data, but it's like a hidden story that that can be revealed in terms of businesses, in order to make informed decision. So I see it as an art, to get the best out of the analysis. I do have an example which I would like to share from my previous
Sure.
project, just in order to give more insights on how data analysis is so important, right? In my previous project, when I was doing data analysis, we identified a significant drop in customer satisfaction scores. That's when we decided on concentrating more on the data side and then taking the business analysis part of it. So by drilling out down into the data, we discovered the root cause, which was the flaw in the product design. And, it really prompted us to redesign the entire process, and that ultimately boosted a lot of customer satisfaction, and also it improved a lot of retention rates from our customers. So this is an example which will really help anyone who comes up with any similar projects or any similar situations where they can apply data analysis and take it parallelly in any project.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm glad you mentioned root cause as well, because I think certainly, I use data analysis a lot to just understand and investigate what information or situation. So, for example, if there is a particular issue been raised, until you really understand the volume of issues, where that issue is prominent, is and really get into the related data, it's very difficult to appreciate the impact and the priority of that particular issue, as an example. And really, in order to do that, we need to get into the root cause and really understand, what is the underlying reason for a problem. And quite often, that can be found either within the data or sometimes through the lack of data. An absence in particular information that should be there, that perhaps is preventing a record moving through the workflow, being presented on a dashboard, or even moving from one system to another as well. So I'm particularly pleased you added that one. It certainly helped me as well. Talk about investigation as certainly a key reason why I use data analysis as well. And I think as we may talk about in a short while when we talk about modeling. I mean, for me, just starting to talk about data is a good way to make the topic come alive and feel a bit more real, because I think whilst the process is a very good way to find out what individuals and teams are doing to particular transaction types or products or pieces of data, actually understanding what we mean by data in that context can really bring the situation to life. So, for example, are we talking about customers and their experiences, or are we talking about the products that they're using, or the transactions that they have, or even the customer queries, as another example. And just being able to frame the topic by thinking at that higher level, thinking almost of the data entities, then it enables us then to focus on what the priorities are and to drill into more specific data points that we need to. So thank you both for a good introduction to the topic of data analysis through that question. I guess I'd like to talk about as well, sort of like data analysis, type of data analysis that you might do as well. So, Ancita, if I can start with you perhaps on this one.
Sure, John. So, see, there are a lot of data analysis techniques that you can do when you are conducting BA job role, but it's just, it's a bit like selecting the right tool for the job. It totally depends on the nature of the problem, the available data, the desired outcomes, what you're looking out for. Sometimes it's about exploring the data nuances through exploratory analysis. So it's all about understanding the problem landscape, choosing the most appropriate analytical approach. um, Tableau being one of the best, I think, right now is like widely used, because see, when it comes to data, a lot of people think that it's going to be boring, it's going to be like a lot of information, something that I don't want to look at, like thousands of tables and thousands of information that's not even needed. So using a tool which is like Tableau, for example, it gives you a better visual. It creates like a story in order to provide it in a way that something that your client or maybe your requester is looking out for. You can provide the right set of examples, in a very creative way, making data look beautiful, making it more readable, making it more easier to understand. So that's something that I think is a very good data analysis tool that you can do and use in terms of doing your BA job role. Also, you can create a lot of dashboards depending on the request or any client query that you have. And it's totally your call on how you want the data to look like. How you can also create dashboard in such a way where it helps the client to make better decisions. It answers a lot of questions the one they have asked. Maybe you can give more insights on what could be the outcomes when they look at this, maybe a better way of looking at the data. A lot of you know play around can happen with the help of those dashboards on Tableau. So I think I can encourage people, or maybe anyone that who is looking out for a career in data analysis and also currently doing BA, they can definitely opt for a tool which is Tableau or Power BI, also depending on the number of people in the company or the request. Like I said, the nature of the problem depends. So yeah, they can use that tool.
And I think that highlights as well that when we think about data analysis, we're not just thinking about looking at data or trying to source it, which are two different types, or even doing investigations. It can be the visualization component of it, or thinking of the right way to inform the development team or the transformation partners as to what do we mean by the information that we need to present, interface, capture, or store, as an example. Yeah, so it's very interesting points here, Ancita. Rohit, same question for you, please.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Ancita with what she told about the exploratory data analysis and the tools like Tableau, Power BI. So apart from Tableau, Power BI, there is also other tools like Google Studio, Looker, or you can say a ClickSense, which is getting high in demand. And regarding the data analysis types, which generally a BA do is like of descriptive analysis. So what happened in the past? What are the bottlenecks, or what all the mistake which we did, or what all the mistake which happened in the past? It is based on that, and based on those mistakes is we do the Pareto analysis, where we are applying the 80-20 principle. There are apart from descriptive, there are also predictive analysis of which is one of the type of data analysis which is heavily used by the market to understand means to have the prediction in future, like a predictive stocks ups and down, whereas a prediction regarding the product being sold at a higher rates. So there are predictive analysis as well which market can do. Then also the segment or customer sentiment analysis. So if you go surf Amazon or Netflix, based on your likes or based on your number of hours which you have spent on a video, they will give you the recommendations. So they will give you the recommendation regarding the horror movies which you have watched past in on a Netflix. Then a different type of a product, be it in a grocery section or be it in the man's grooming section, they will give you the vouchers to grab your attention and make you buy those products. So this is one of the powerful tool regarding the data analysis. One is the predictive analysis, as I said, for the market, then the sentiment analysis to understand the customer base and customer sentiments and targeting their future predictions. That okay, that these are the products which are heavily bought in these seasons, like in a winter seasons, and then marketing those products, giving you the recommendation now and then. So a lot of powerful tool we have in the field of data analysis.
That's it. I mean, you mentioned a few tools there, and certainly a few techniques that I'm familiar with as well. I mean, certainly used Tableau, Power BI, ClickView. I think you mentioned that being as part of ClickSense as well. But there's lots of BAs as well just using Excel, which is perfectly acceptable. I think just being on that path of looking at data sets, even if it's in Excel, to try and understand what is actually the information that's progressing through the process, that is of interest to the business, that's causing issues, and having a means to inquire on it is certainly useful. And certainly some of those tools you mentioned make that life a little bit easier, that's for sure, than they have to do it manually. But maybe some of the other things you touched on as well, they have a similar sentiment to what we would do manually, because you mentioned the examples there where through data we can make more informed recommendations, or maybe systems are making more informed recommendations. But it's very similar for us as business analysts, because by doing the data analysis to try and validate or appreciate what we've heard and evidence it, that means that we're able to give recommendations ourselves. And sometimes we uncover patterns in the data or root causes that perhaps no one else had really given us before, but it's for our own investigation that we spot these things and that we can share it, and then maybe we can make recommendations beyond it as well. Yes, I'm glad you made those points, because they're very, very relevant. I think some other things I might also add as well in terms of the type of data analysis we sometimes find ourselves doing as BAs. We sort of touched on it, but sort of like covering any gaps in data or information, any anomalies that are affecting the systems or the processes or the outputs. There's certainly something that we might do as well. We might be involved in data migrations, whether that's moving information from one place to another, one team to another, one system to another, or even just being able to help those that are doing that job, maybe it's the technology team, by giving them understanding of what information it is in the first place, what is the current format and structure, field lengths as an example, and what should that look like in the target state. So there are different types that I would also add, but feels like we've covered a few different scenarios there, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things that we might use data analysis for, but hopefully people get an appreciation who watch this of some of the uses of data analysis in our role as BAs, and also through our collective inputs there, get a view of some of the tools they may or may not have heard of, or even just to be comfortable that the fact they're using Excel and looking at data sets makes them a data analyst of some sort, that's for sure.
Yeah, I always say that Excel is the mother of all tool. Means if one has a good hold on Excel, then he or she can learn SQL as well, and also the charts types. So learning Excel is very much crucial.
That's it. And it just takes me on to a question that around like data mining. It's a term I hear a little bit of, certainly over recent times. So do either of you have a view on what data mining is, and perhaps any differences that there might be for data mining versus what we've talked about today? And I wonder, Rohit, is that something that you might have a view on?
Yeah. So data mining, see, basically we need to understand the concept of data mining. So data mining is nothing but gathering the data and having an insight of large data sets. So all the data is gathered from the different sources. It is stored in the data warehouse, and from those data warehouse, it's taken, means the insights or the hidden patterns are identified. So on a cloud also, means a Snowflake is very much on a high run. So if we use the Snowflake data warehouse, then there are some of the tools, or you can say services which is used by the Snowflakes. We can identify the hidden patterns without having the physical one. So data mining is a key foundation to do the data analysis. And there are some other tools as well. Means we have the web scraping. Means in Python we can do the web scraping. There is one tool, or you can say one library, that is a beautiful soap, which is used for the web scraping of each and every web data, and from those web data the sentiments are analyzed. So data mining is nothing but to have the large data sets in a one area, in one particular data warehouse, and to find the hidden patterns. So maybe the hidden patterns talks about the data discrepancy which earlier had, or any customer inclinations, or any of the market inclination or product inclination. So finding the hidden patterns and drawing the insight from it is what about data mining. Is all about data mining.
This is from where we might
Mhm.
start to hear about other roles as well. So rather than just the data analyst, we might hear about data scientists, data engineers. They might tend to use more of these data mining tool sets to do a little bit more than perhaps your typical BA might do. But
Yep.
certainly, I think having some awareness of the data mining means that as a business analyst, you get to talk to the data scientists, talk to the data architects, and understand, if there's ways you can improve your own analysis and how your analysis can connect more closely and easily with the work they're doing as well.
Yeah,
Okay, and
totally
Sita, do
agree.
you have
Mhm.
any points to add on the topic of data mining?
Absolutely, John. And I totally agree on your explanation and also Rohit's explanation about data mining. It's basically just a process of discovering patterns, trends, and insights from large data sets using statistical and machine learning techniques. It involves on uncovering valuable information that's hidden within the vast amount of data to support decision making and strategic planning. While having said that, while having data and mining is closely related to business analysis, it typically is considered like a specialist activity within the
Agreed, yeah.
broader field of data analysis. So some of the tools I would also like to highlight, like Rohit said, is which is used in data mining, is Python, with libraries like pandas, numpy. you know it's like Python is like a versatile programming language, and it's really commonly used in data mining due to its rich ecosystem of libraries. Again, pandas facilitates the data manipulation and pre-processing. Also, SQL, it's an essential data retrieval and manipulation from relational databases. It also allows the analyst to extract relevant data subsets for analysis. It performs aggregations, joins, transformations, whenever as needed. Tableau, again, a powerful data visualization tool that allows analysts to create interactive dashboard, like we spoke about, visualizations from various data sources. Apache Spark is also kind of a distributed computing framework, which is commonly used for large-scale data processing tasks. It includes data mining and machine learning. Well, again, it differs. It really offers like high performance and scalability, making it suitable for handling like big data analytics projects. So these are like some of the tools. Also, there are some business cases for using those kind of data mining tools that we just spoke about. One of the business problem that can be a retail company who wants to improve customer retention, maybe increase their sales by identifying factors that influence customer purchasing behavior. This can be one of the data mining business case. The data sources may be the company that has access to a wealth of data, including transaction records, customer demographics, maybe website interactions, social media engagement metrics. Again, data mining or using those data mining tools can also be a very good, this can be a very good business use case again.
And
So
that makes
yeah, a
that
little
makes
about a lot.
That's right. And there's certainly a lot on that topic. And I think even perhaps people can use data mining to appreciate like the ancestry of the data and the linkage of it, where it comes from, how one object can relate to another. For example, how perhaps a transaction might relate to a process that might relate to a data
Yeah.
management framework as an example as well. And what's interesting there is to think about, understanding topics that are on the sort of periphery of business analysis, and they connect to their other professions as well, like data mining and data analytics, is to then recognize some of those skill sets that work quite naturally together. So as a business analyst, it's useful to be able to identify, the data sources, i.e. the systems used by the users in the process, for them to understand the type of information that is of interest, whether that's because there's certain issues related to the process, or because, we want to take advantage of certain opportunities, or we want to improve or introduce new technology, as an example. But also the BA can help inform what the scope is for those doing the data mining, and gives them some focus as to where to look and how to do their connections. And probably, just my last point on that, I suppose, is then just to direct them on those opportunities a bit more in a bit more focused way if they can. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So very much as we do with as BAs anyway, whoever we're working with, whether it's data architects, project managers, product owners, or otherwise, it's very much, there's that relationship between the two, so that we are working collaboratively with those individuals to hand them something of value, but we're quite at ease in sort of tweaking or coming back and finding more information out, and being part of the process rather than pass it over to someone and leave it for them.
That's rightly said, John.
Good. And so, I mean, and it connects, I think, the topic of data mining sort of connects, and the theme of it, I suppose, sort of connects quite nicely with another topic that I wanted to talk about, which is data modeling. So certainly as a business analyst, data modeling for me is a very useful technique. It allows me, as I'm interacting with my stakeholders, to start to learn about the information that they're telling me. So, for example, I might use like something as simple as an entity relationship diagram, just to show that, there's customers, and customers might have addresses, and addresses might have, or customers might have products, and products might have complaints against them, as an example. And just to get a view of what the high level pieces of information are that we care about. And then I can naturally use more advanced models like class diagrams, as an example, to be able to appreciate the data points and how we connect our entities or our tables through specific data points as well. So they're a couple of examples, I think, for me, of where, of some models that I use, but by modeling and drawing these things out, it's a way for my stakeholders that I'm working with to be able to clarify if there's additional information they need, or if my understanding isn't as clear as it needs to be, so we can modify it, or even just to hand over to technology so that they can get the benefit of at least appreciating the picture as I understand it as well. And I wonder, Ancita, just from your perspective, I mean, it'd be good to talk about your experience of data modeling and sort of the benefits of it, really, as you see it.
Sure. So John, here's how I like to frame data modeling first, and all, so that everyone can understand. I look at it like an architect's blueprint for, constructing the edifice of any insights. For me, it's not, just about arranging numbers, but it's also about crafting a narrative that speaks volume, that speaks about the organization's inner workings, facilitating a deeper understanding, and, in order to help in making informed decision making. So here's the thing I would like to also share. While I was having a session with one of my team members about the data modeling, they asked me a very valid question when we were speaking about it. Like, how do you ensure that, your data models, they accurately represent the complexities of the real world business environment? So we were like, we all discussed about it, and here's what we came up with was like, it requires a blend of domain expertise, the stakeholder collaboration, again, a very important aspects to it. It's like an iterative refinement. So we can start by thoroughly understanding the business process and requirements, then work closely with the stakeholders to validate and refine the models. It's an ongoing dialogue, I can say, aimed at ensuring that the models faithfully reflect the dynamic nature of, the business environment. and that's something that we gave as an explanation. With data modeling, I also think that Microsoft Excel plays a very important role again, as a tool. Let's say you're working on a project to analyze like sales data for a retail company. You can use Excel to create spreadsheets, for organizing and manipulating the data. You might use the features like pivot tables in order to summarize those sales figures,
Yeah.
by product category or maybe by a region, or any charts to visualize trends over time. It can be used like a basic data modeling technique. Again, a lucid chart, again, for any redesigning of a company database schema, you can use a lucid chart to create like an entity relationship diagram. We call it ERDs. You can also visually represent the entities such as customers, product, orders, their relationship with the database. This helps the stakeholders understand the structure of the data, and also identifies the potential issues and improvements needed in the schema design. Again, one that I can recollect of is the ER or the studio, maybe. Again, it's involved to develop a new customer relationship system, which is, customer relationship management system. Again, in simple terms, we call it CRM right now. So it can be used to design those kind of projects or systems that can document the database schema for the CRM systems. Power designers, IBM Infosphere, data architect. There are like a lot we can keep talking about, like more and more, but I would like Rohit to take over.
So, Ancita, quite a happy words and quite informative, which you have talked about. So, for me, or as a layman term, or as a layman, data modeling is nothing but structuring your data. So, data is though readily available, it is not readily available in a structured way. So, having a structure, proper structure to analyze the data, it's very much important. So 70% of the time of a data analyst or a BA spends on data cleaning itself. So there are talking about the ER model. So ER model is like a quick snippets of the data which you are having. So there are different models as well, and as you early said that there are schemas as well, ERD schemas and all. So in my opinion, there are star schemas as well, because looking at the complexity and looking at the volume of the data which is increasing day by day, star schemas or a snowflake schema becomes handful. So as a though we as a BA are not a data modeler, but we should understand that having a deep or having a good understanding of a data modeling helps us to bring the data requirements to the table. Means to understand the data requirement, to understand the scope of what we are going to achieve, and to convert those data requirement into a specified, you can say a specification diagram or a specification documents, will give you a boost to understand all the project scope and to be in the project timeline, or you can say a track, or in a particular track. So that's how I understand the data modeling. That is having a good understanding, or converting those data into a structured way, so that a person who is from a non-data background, a person who is out of a project, easily understands that what all going on.
Yeah.
What
And
about you, John? Yeah.
And it's good talking about the data schema as well, because I think that's a good example of an artifact that sits outside of business analysis in terms of production, but is one that we can all utilize and reuse and help us familiarize ourselves with data as well. Because I think if we were talking about a brand new project and system, our role as the BA would be to give a view to perhaps the technology team of what data needs to be sourced and stored, and we'll talk about it from a business standpoint. So, for example, if we spoke about our customers, that we need the customer's first name, we need their middle name, their surname, their address, right? But we talk about it in a very business sense, so that business stakeholders can understand and validate that we're actually putting forward a comprehensive set of requirements that will form the basis of any solutions that are built. As far as the schema is then concerned, that is the translation in technical terms, which might be quite different, because I know you mentioned there like star schemas as one example, because that that schema that's ultimately built, i.e. that set of tables and data points, might be configured in a completely different way than the business analyst or even the business think about those data artifacts. But understanding them and the relationship between that technical schema and the business model is very key. And quite often we aren't always working on blue sky, brand new projects, brand new systems. We're actually looking at enhancing existing ones, or maybe interfacing between existing systems, or even trying to build a report on top of a system. And therefore we don't necessarily have to go and model completely from scratch. We can instead go and ask the technology team who owns that particular product, can we have access to the database schema, which sometimes might be in a format that we can easily understand. We might recognize some of the tables, we might recognize some of the attributes and the relationships. But sometimes, unfortunately, there's quite a different representation, and even the table names might not be obvious. So having that understanding is useful, i.e. of the schema, but then leveraging and collaborating with our technology colleagues to help us understand it more is hugely important. And maybe they might have other artifacts as well, like data dictionaries that they can point us to that help us understand the information that's already in place. So I think from a BA standpoint, it's important therefore to realise we don't have to know all of this stuff up front. We don't have to be experts in every aspect of it. But if we can at least be aware to ask the technology team, the data architects as well, where is this information stored? What's the logical representation of it? Is there a picture of it already that I can look at and understand? That's a good way for us to start sometimes. So I'm glad you nicely mentioned that to take us into that point. And I guess it takes us on as well to think about another topic that often gets thought about from an analysis standpoint, which is actually sourcing of data. So where does it come from? What format does it arrive in? When should it arrive? What format should it be transmitted in, as well, as an example? And I wonder, I'll start with you, Rohit, really. Is there any additional points that you think are important to recognise on the topic of data collection, as it were, and research?
So as a part C, whatever we do as a data collection, so we need to understand that data collection is a basic foundation which we are going to build in a long run. So if the collected data is not in line with your project scope, or if the collected data is having a lot of data discrepancy, missing data, or missing metadata in in incorrect format, then the collection process becomes vague. So we at the same time we need to find out that whatever we are collecting from a different sources, be it from the web, or be it from the surveys, be it from the PDF itself, uh, it's not in the same tabular format. It may vary, means the format may get vary, but the one thing remains the same, is that data accuracy. So we need to check that data accuracy is maintained, the data integrity is maintained. Whatever the transaction we had earlier, it is showing, the data is reflecting the same transactions. There is no ambiguity. And I would say that data collection is very much a hard job, because there are a lot of sources available, and once we hit on the target, means once we complete this hard task, then everything hereafter becomes easy for me. I think that Ancita will agree on this data collections.
I totally agree with that,
Yep.
Rohit, and it's a very good explanation that you gave
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
data collection. Um, it's like planning a birthday party, you know? It's like me and my examples. that's
Yeah.
just that's just something we've learned about giving examples in BA, working as a BA. Um, while data collection is like using it every day. It comes from surveys, interviews, observation, maybe any kind of document analysis. So there are like a lot of sources of data collection to it. Um,
Mhm.
like if you talk about surveys, we can speak about online survey platforms, Google Forms again, like you said, any social media polls. Talk about interviews. Maybe we can talk about face-to-face interviews. video calls, observations. It's like direct observation at any event, gathering, actively monitoring anything or maybe anything on social media. So your approach, it totally depends to a data collection. On the problem again, and the ask. It's like it involves like a blend of quantitative and qualitative methods, in order to ensure that the comprehensive coverage and accuracy is provided. Again, where you get the data, the accuracy, it plays a very important role for a BA to facilitate. Because again, data collection is something not a BA's day-to-day job. It's part of their job, so by leveraging surveys, interviews, observation, document analysis, you gather diverse perspective and insights. It's like an additionally used advanced tool and technique in order to enhance that the data that's collected is efficient and it's effective. That's what I have to talk about it. Not an everyday job. I mean, it's not a like something that you really need to do every day, but it's going to be part of your job eventually when you start working on the projects or anything that's asked, in order to facilitate your requirements.
And you sort of talked about as well some very important aspects there in terms of, by talking about things like surveys and interviews, what it does, it makes it clear that when we talk about data, we don't just mean data that's residing in systems, it's information that is residing in the stakeholders that we're talking to. And sometimes we can gain that from them by talking to them and actually understanding their view. And as we collate those views, that becomes a set of data that we can interrogate. But sometimes, as you mentioned, we need to reach a wider audience, and therefore putting some time into a well thought out survey, distributing that survey to the right stakeholders, and assessing their responses is certainly a useful activity. And it's funny because when I think about surveys, I think about data quality quite as well. I mean, data quality is a topic that we definitely need to think about throughout when it thinks about data, i.e. how do we validate the information? How do we ensure it's accurate, comprehensive and timely, and more besides? But I think when you're issuing a survey, I think you become more acutely aware of data quality as a result, because certainly in my experience, very rarely do you get a perfect set of responses from everybody who responds to your survey. Generally, there are like data gaps or anomalies that you weren't expecting, people not answering questions in the way that you was hoping, or people putting, not applicable or just some random characters, for example, in a comment field. That could be, your first exposure sometimes to realize data isn't always of the best quality, and you need to figure out, well, what am I going to do with that? Does that mean I can ignore it, or is there actually some useful stuff outside of that, those random characters elsewhere in the field, as it were?
Absolutely. And also
Absolutely.
as a BA, I think the document analysis also plays a very important role in when it comes to data collection, is because you are going through all those previous, event records, you're going through those contracts, you have to go through all those feedback forms, email correspondence. So as a BA, this again is also a very useful technique when you do, apart from the surveys and observations, is document analysis on how you do it, when you do it. And that really helps us, I can say it gives you more granularity in terms of the data collection. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a point made by Rohit a moment ago, I think, when he was talking about like building up the narrative of a story. I think it was yourself, Rohit, that was saying that. And I think, that data collection is another aspect of being able to get that narrative understood, so that the story you can present as a business analyst to your stakeholders is actually a bit more informed, a bit more data driven, hopefully a bit more accurate as a result as well. So I think it's nicely taking us back into that zone of and showing that all these different things we've been talking about, be it collection, modeling, thinking about broadly what data is, the connection with other disciplines like data engineers or architects. It's all part of telling that story to somebody. whether it's the business or the stakeholder or the technology, or probably many, in fairness as well. And I think that sort of, to me, it takes us probably to the last topic of the day, really, in terms of which we've sort of touched on from time to time as well, and that's more like data visualization and dashboards, as it were. So I think there's both topics you've sort of both mentioned from from things like Tableau, business objects. I think we haven't talked about that, but there's other visualization tools we've mentioned, and it probably feels like a nice place to end. So I guess Rohit, if I could start with you on this one, just to share your insights and any final thoughts in relation to data visualization.
So having Ancita said that there are she has heavily worked on Tableau, so same is the case. So earlier in my career, I used to work heavily on Excel. So I used to draw the data insights and draw the simple graph. It start means for any data aspirer or any data, you can say a beginner, a simple bar graph gives you a boost of confidence. So if you are able to create a simple bar graph, that too from the pivot table, so it gives you means a different level of confidence. So to start with, I would suggest that to have a practice of Excel dashboards, means try to uh, be more accurate on the Excel itself only. Try to build an interactive dashboard, use of slicers, then use of pivot analysis. And there's a super function which I have come across recently. In Excel, if you have a readily available data, that too in a tabular format without any data redundancy or without any missing data, there's a powerful function called analyze the data. I don't know how many of you have looked into it. So if you click on the analyze the data, then we need to ask a question. Okay, then what is the sales amount? What is the average sales amount? Which product has created the history, or you can say surpass the previous profit margins? So that way, it's like a mini chat GPT. So Excel is very much powerful tool, and once we create a interactive dashboards on a Excel, then we are able to grab the technicality of Tableau or Power BI. Or Looker is also one of the tool, and ClickSense and ClickView, because at the end it's just a matter of a drag and drop facilities. But if you don't know what to drag, where to drag, and how to drag, then I think there is a lot of learning for you in terms of visualization. So one has to be my second it comes to my second point, that one has to be very well versed with the types of charts which you are using it, because
Yeah.
all the time we cannot use pie chart. Pie chart seems very much attractive, but it doesn't convey any information apart from just a decorative purposes. Not against the pie chart, but still my perspective about the pie chart. Then which chart is used for what kind of a data? Then is there any, you can say, is there any relation, or is there any missing value? Because lot of times we have to deal with the missing values. The date format is not in a particular order. There is a spaces in the name. There are also the redundant, you can say, redundant columns in the data. So it becomes very much hard for a data visualizer to have the readily available data. So one has to work more on the data cleaning itself only. And once we feel that all the data is clean, gathered in a well structured format, then it's a matter of just 20 or 30% of a task, which can be visualized in a powerful way in terms of storytelling as well, what all we have learned from the data. So that's it. Means I feel that data visualization is very much powerful. And I would recommend that you just go to the World Economic Forum and see the charts and see the level of granularity which they have built. It's like mind blowing. So
Yeah,
whenever you get a time, yeah, World Economic Forum, they have a better, or you can say a best visualization charts which they have used.
I
So
think there's probably loads of examples similar to that. You sort of, once you've started visualizing data, using
mhm,
charts, using dashboards, I think you naturally become aware of, in all walks of life, different
yep,
uses of different charts. I mean, like anyone who's a football fan, for example, around the World Cup time or when there's big sporting events, they use some really interesting ways to visualize information about what's going on. And I think you can sort of keep your eye on it and maybe tend to use it yourself for your own purposes on your own projects. But some excellent points
yep,
there, Rohit, certainly.
yep.
And Sita, were there any points from you to on the topic?
Yeah, I totally agree on Rohit's information provided, and also providing, you know, extra information about where and how you can actually use the data visualization. So I think that's a good job, Rohit. As a BA, if you ask me, how do I look at as before, like how do I look at data visualization? It's like it serves like a powerful tool for me in order to communicating complex insights in a clear and compelling manner. I view data visualization as an integral part of analysis process. It helps me by transforming raw data into intuitive charts, graphs, you know dashboards, and it not only enhances comprehension, but it also facilitates the data driven decision making across all levels in the organization. Um, for example, like if I'm working on any sales performance dashboard, right, as a BA, working for a retail company, you are tasked and you are asked to do a data visualization with the help of Excel, maybe Tableau. You can use Excel for creating basic charts and graph. Like Rohit said, in order to drag the data, or in order to drag those fields, you need to actually know what to drag. So Excel is something that you can use for any basic level of charts and graphs, if you're asked to do any projects as such. Tableau can be used for creating more interactive dashboards. It can be used for more advanced visualizations. Again, I would like to add on one more tool that can be used, which is Google Data Studio. It's for creating more customizable reports and dashboards. And with Tableau, you can also add filters, like you can allow users to drill down into sales data, maybe by providing them with product category, or maybe a geographic region, including tooltips that can provide additional information when user hover over the data points in the charts. So it's like a very integral part for a BA to do the data visualization correctly in order for others to understand better.
Absolutely. And I think you both made some very interesting points there, and it helped recognise that not only is it an opportunity for the BAs to think about the story that they're presenting and use dashboards and charts to be able to help show what would be quite complicated information in a fairly simple way, but also that you don't have to just think about the end product. You can use some charts to actually look at the data quality or the anomalies or the progress you're making on your analysis before you just think about the end product itself. So there's plenty of opportunities in all aspects of our analysis to consider, is there data visualization benefits that we can introduce. And I'm sure plenty more to talk about on that particular topic for sure. I know we've spoken for a fair amount of time. I think it's probably a good point to draw it to a close, but certainly I'd like to thank you both for your time. Hopefully everybody has enjoyed the session as much as I have. It's really been good to hear a whole variety of different insights from you on the topic of data. But thank you once again to the pair of you.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure to be with you and talk to you and Ancita. Means I have learned a lot new things during our call, and I hope that our audiences also finds it insightful and mark their data journey or mark their business analyst journey into a data field. Thank you.
I totally agree with Rohit. And thank you, John, once again for this wonderful opportunity. I mean, we feel lucky that we are able to have such kind of sessions, and the credit goes to you to take the initiative, to go that extra mile to help the aspiring data analysts, maybe business analysts, or maybe the ones who are already like in the existing role. It really helps when you have such kind of sessions. It helps them refresh their skills, or maybe their current thinking capability, maybe, and also it helps a lot of other people. And I am pretty sure this session has been wonderful. I personally enjoyed it. Rohit shared some great insights, you know, with the help of his examples, his, information provided. The way you portrayed everything, John, was like really commendable. So it was a pleasure to be in this sessions, and I think we should keep doing it more often.
Well, I
Yes.
certainly will intend to do that. Well, I appreciate the comments, that's for sure, and certainly the aim is to carry this on. I think it's just demonstrated as well that actually there's plenty of opportunities for BAs out there to reach out to individuals who they observe or come across in both them over there within the organisations they're in, but also more broadly. And by just reaching out, saying hello, talking for a little while, there's a lot of benefit to be had from it, and making some good connections in the process. So thank you again, everybody, and look forward to seeing yourselves again, and everybody else on the next BA Insights session. So thank you.
Yes, looking forward. Bye bye.